Hey everybody, welcome back. It is week 2 in our LIT 2000 honors class. And as usual, I want to kick off the week with a little overview of what you should be working on this week, and respond to any questions that came in from last week. I know that there was a little bit of confusion with due dates, and part of the problem was, and this is my bad. There was a assignment that was not from your class that had been in a previous version of LIT 2000, and it gave it to you and made it due before the class started, which was really weird and annoying. So what I decided to do was, if you did it, you can get extra credit for it. So it's called the MLA review. And you may see it in your to-do list. You'll notice that it is now worth 0 points because you will get 25 points if you do it, but I want that to be extra credit, not just credit. So again, I'm sorry, I don't know why that phantom assignment was copied. Sometimes Canvas just does things, and we just kind of let it happen, and we try not to worry too much about it. Anyway, let's take a look at what's going on in week 2. And we will hopefully get through everything in one piece. All right, so as normal, as I've mentioned to you before, the modules is where you want to go, but I also do want to point out that some of you had been confused about due dates and what was due when, and part of that was that extra fandom assignment. But I just want to point your attention back to the chart, the table that's on the bottom of the home page, because this is going to be your number one space to see what's due when. Okay, so last week you had 2 things technically due: the discussion board and the criticism quiz. And then if you did that extra bonus assignment, you're going to get points for that on top of your normal grade. This week, you are going to write your first paper on sociology, politics, and literature. So let's go to the module and get our learning materials and all that good stuff. So we are starting with, we are still in module 1, which is the introductory information. So most of you have already done the readings and things for this week. And so now you're just going to put together that week 2 assignment, which is the first paper. So if we click on the readings, activities, and assignments, you will notice, of course, that we have some additional things that are just listed for week 2. And if you didn't read these and watch these videos yet, that's absolutely fine. You didn't need to, but this week you will be doing that. So you've got 2 videos that will help you focus on sociological criticism. You've got a link to the library resources that will help you work on your first paper. I'm going to go over the assignment with you in just a second. Paper writing basics and MLA resources. We are using MLA in this course, so most of you are already familiar with MLA. You also do want to make sure that you have a up-to-date information on what MLA is, if in case you took ENC 1101 a while ago. And then you have a link to a document that will help you think specifically about writing about literature, because that's what, of course, we're doing. Now, you get to choose which short story you want to focus on in this paper. I will not tell you which one you need to do. There are a lot that you can choose from. We have a link to our virtual library guide, and you can pick any of these stories. Some of them may be familiar to you. I know many people have read The Yellow Wallpaper in ENC 1102. There may be some others that you've encountered. Many of you probably read The Mask of the Red Death, or some story or another by Edgar Allan Poe, even in high school. So take a quick look at them, decide what you think is most interesting to you. You could do a little background research on who these people are, and what era this information is from. I will tell you, probably the most modern stories will be Jhumpa Lahiri's The Interpreter of Maladies, and Sherman Alexie's What It Means to Say Phoenix, Arizona. They are both current writers that are still actively publishing things. I think Tim O'Brien might be as well. Alice Walker is still living. Alice Walker, you may know the novel, The Color Purple, that has been turned into two movies and a musical. So you may be familiar with her. This particular story is a short story and not a novel. So I promise you it is manageable, but you get to pick whatever story you want. So feel free to pick from those. Let me show you what the LibGuide looks like. When we click on it, you will notice that it takes us to the virtual library, and all of those can be found in the short fiction section. And then, of course, you've got the author's last names to navigate here. So depending on which one you want to go find, you're going to use short fiction and look through there. The other thing about this page that should be helpful is that when you are researching that story, you want to use databases from this selection. Now, I will tell you the two that I recommend the most are going to be Gale Literary Sources and Literary Reference Center Plus. JSTOR is great if it's an older story, and many of you may have used Academic Search Complete in ENC 1101. Films on Demand can be very helpful in writing about literature as well. So, take some time to kind of go through there. Sometimes what I like to do if I need to pick a story is I might do the research first and then pick the story. So I might go to, say, Literary Reference Center Plus, and I'm just going to give you a sample that you can search. We do need to sign in, of course. But you can kind of research and see if there are things written about the stories that you might find interesting. I'm going to use everyday use. I just mentioned Alice Walker. So I'm going to use everyday use. I've put quotation marks around it because I want that whole thing. Now you'll notice that it has all these sets here. So I can actually choose some of those, but I'm just going to click on search just to kind of see how it comes up. There's only 31 sources. That's still plenty to write about. You don't need anywhere near 31 sources. But we have some video providers. We have some sources from academic literary databases. There's all kinds of fun stuff here that you can use. So this might be a good one to do because we can also really look at all 31 sources. We don't have to be super picky. Now, I will say that when you're looking at the source types, academic journals will be the one that you are most likely to use, along with literary criticism. Things in magazines and book reviews are usually not that helpful. So if I use those, I come from 31 down to 15. So again, that's going to be really, that's plenty to look through. When you are citing sources, of course, that you get from the library, one of the benefits of using the library sources is that this is an EBSCOhost database. So the button is over here and it says cite. We're going to choose MLA, and the citation is already done for us. If you are looking at resources on the internet, number one, they may not be reputable. Number two, they may not be academic. And number three, you have to cite them manually. So use the databases. I promise it will make your life easier. And you can look at more than one. Like I said, the two that I most heartily recommend will be Gale Literary Sources and Literary Reference Center Plus. One is a Gale database, one is EBSCOhost. So between the two of those, you will almost always find something that you need. Typically, Academic Search Complete, not being a specifically literary database, you may or may not find things. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to look. It is an EBSCOhost database, so it's going to look, the interface is going to look very much like we just saw. And let's just, out of curiosity, see what we get. Oh, there we have 533. Now, not most of these don't have anything to do with Alice Walker. So I'm going to put in and Alice. Oh, I already put in Walker. So let me put in Ann Walker. And I'm still, some of this one is definitely about everyday use, but notice it's a lot more difficult to find things on literature in a general database, especially because these were also listed in the other one. So you can definitely use Academic Search Complete. It's one of my favorite databases ever, but be aware that it may not have as much findings for literary sources. So keep in mind, you're going to read the short fiction and you're going to do some background research on the story. Okay, let's go back to the assignment. And this is the paper assignment. So, potential stories, here's the list again. Requirements. This paper needs to be 4 pages long. It needs to be MLA format and documentation, so double spaced. You'll have all the first page information, you'll have a title, you'll have a works cited page. You will have for sure one of the stories that is cited, and you will notice that in the databases they do give you the citation, or in the LibGuide they do give you the citation, so you can get the citation correct. You will have secondary sources from academically sound sources like the library. And you certainly can use reference type sources if you need to look up information. I would not use Wikipedia unless what they have in there is just so you can't find it anywhere else. And that I would be suspicious about. I also have some information here for you to look at for inspiration on writing about the stories. But essentially, what you're going to do is you're going to analyze the story. So you can look at things like the plot, the characters, the settings, the point of view, motifs, all of which are going to come through a sociological lens. So we're going to be focusing on society and how this story, the chosen story, what it says about society. Okay, so character plays into that, people play into that. You can certainly focus on all kinds of different things within that analysis. I will say this, plot is one of those that's a danger zone, and you may have encountered this in ENC 1101 or 1102. When you're writing about the plot, you do not need to tell us what happened in the story because you should assume that your reader is familiar with it. So please do not just retell the story. But if you want to focus on something about the plot, typically we look at the conflict, like what caused the plot to happen, sometimes the climax, and certainly the resolution of how the tension in the story is resolved. There'll be a lot more things in the readings and resources to help you kind of pick out what you want to write about this time. Remember that you do want to use direct quotes from the story when you are using paraphrased information, whether it's from the story or from a secondary source. You do still need to cite that information through both a parenthetical citation and an entry on the works cited page. If you need any help with that, please reach out. But again, all the materials that are in the module this week will help you review and or learn those skills. So keep an eye on those. Make sure that you go through those first. And then, of course, if you have questions, reach out and I am more than happy to help. All right, everybody. I will see you back here in week 3. Take care, everyone.